Well, Kenny, it doesn't look like we're going to get a grand finale to this Premier League title race. Arsenal beaten 3-0 by Brighton. They just run out of steam.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Yeah, I wouldn't beat them up too much. It was a poor performance today, but they played with a team kind of lacking real belief that this title race was still up for grabs. I think sometimes you can give it the big talk in the dressing room as the manager. I'm sure during the week he was talking up the significance of this game and trying to instill a bit of belief in the players that, 3 wins could still maybe wrestle the title away from Manchester City. But probably it looked as if I'd be surprised if only too many of the players were buying it. I think they realised they made the points drop prior to the game today were the ones that ultimately will prove decisive. You mentioned it yourself on the commentary there. In particular, I thought the result of West Ham, you can never point at one game in particular, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's just that West Ham game. They went ahead early in the game, Nathan, didn't they? You just felt like grab the game by the scruff and get it done. They didn't allow West Ham into the game, and those points surrendered that day in particular. You always look back and think, that was hugely significant. So so those moments ultimately have proved crucial. Yes, they lost the game today and deservedly lost the game, but the damage was caused previously.
It was a strange performance from Arsenal today and how flat it was, particularly when you consider this time last week when they played Newcastle, which was a ferocious encounter.
Yeah, I know.
It was almost as if the flatness of Brighton in the first half, they responded to that.
No, it needed a big start. You're right, because I'm talking about the lack of belief amongst the players, probably there amongst the supporters as well. Football supporters and fools. They would have known what mountain those Arsenal players had to climb the remaining few games of the season. So you're looking for something that early portion of the game, 10, 15 minutes, start off quickly, get your passing game going, create a few chances, maybe an early goal. That gets the crowd involved in the game. That kind of energises the stadium and you're kind of on your way a little. But that never happened. It was a bit disjointed early in the game. Yes, there was a couple of fouls and a few stoppages in play, but it was all a little bit too slow from an Arsenal point of view, and they just never really found that kind of fluency to the game which we've seen for large chunks of the season. And really Brighton were the team who weren't at their best either first half. Overall it was a poor quality game, you'd have to say, first half for teams of that quality. But if Brighton found their feet second half, give the Zerbi a bit of credit, made a couple of changes which I think helped them, and they were by far the stronger team of the second half and deserved the win.
If you were looking at it then from Mikel Arteta's point of view, is there anything he could have done differently over the last 6 weeks? Look, we're all great managers, aren't we, and coaches on the sidelines, and hindsight's a wonderful thing. I always felt in the run in, it was only 6 weeks ago, I still kind of fancied them. I gave Arsenal the edge, but as soon as they lost Saliba at centre half, and it looked as if they weren't going to get him back on the pitch, I thought that was almost a mortal blow. I always felt there was a couple of players in that Arsenal team they couldn't afford to be without Nathan going into the final running of the season. That's not the case with Manchester City. Take 2 or 3 players out of that City team, maybe Haaland apart, you feel as if they could accommodate anybody in terms of the depth of the squad. Not so much Arsenal. And Saliba was one of those players, putting Holding in there for the period of time, who's a decent enough slugger at centre half, but probably not up to the level that they need at that stage of the season. Even now, Kiwior came in today. You just felt they were searching a little bit in that area of the pitch. They were a little bit under strength at a crucial point of the season in a significant area of the pitch, and maybe just lost a little bit of confidence because of that. You've played the game, so you can explain what Jacob Kiwior was thinking about in the build-up to that first goal, which really was a crucial moment. Obviously, an opening goal is always going to be, but we were sort of confused when we were doing our commentary as to how suddenly Enciso finds himself in acres of space 4 yards out when 3 seconds earlier when the first ball had come through, there was somebody marking him, and Evan Ferguson sort of stands on the back of his heel, his boot comes off. I don't know, is it not beaten into every professional that you stand your ground no matter what in that when you're having to defend?
Well, it's what you have to do. You have to realise the significance of the moment. And Arsenal hadn't cleared. It wasn't as if the ball had been cleared outside the 18-yard box and you feel as if maybe you've got a moment. That wasn't the case. The ball was still in the danger area. Esputina was just in the process of putting the cross back into the box. You've got Enciso when you're inside shoulder 4 yards out. Every antenna inside you there as defenders screaming at you to stay focused and stay concentrated. Yeah, it would have pinched a little bit. We've always been there in the penalty box. A clumsy forward stands on your toe or kind of rakes you accidentally. down the back of your foot, but you just got to take it. You kind of suck it up and you stay in your feet and you clear your danger, and then potentially you deal with a 5-10 seconds down the road. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to overplay it in terms of, oh, this is typical of kind of Arsenal of old type.
That's what will be said.
That's what will be said, yeah.
That's the softness.
Yeah, but in that moment it was. But I suppose in that moment, Nathan, that's what it was, like a little bit of kind of softness mentally. You just got to be stronger. I'm not saying they lost the game on account of that, but yeah, just that central defensive position. It's not the only one, like I said. It'll be very interesting this summer. Arteta, it's a big moment for the club, I think, actually, in the summer. They've had a wonderful season, but they can't sit on their laurels, and I think Arteta will know that. I think he's shrewd enough to know that his team, his squad, is certainly short in some areas of the pitch, and he'll be going cap in hand to the board, and to Adu in particular. I think he's got on side. I think he's lucky in that respect, and they've got a good relationship, them too. I think they'll know the squad has to be reinforced. The players themselves are in that squad at the moment. They need a little bit of help. I think there's still a couple that may need to go out as well. He may have to push the pieces around the board a little bit, but I think they're in a very good place, Arsenal. There's some outstanding individual talent within that squad. In the context of the season, it's been a phenomenal season for the football club, but they have to build on it. They can't stand still, because the teams around are going to go again, reinvest significantly in the summer, and they're going to have to match that, and City are the ones to catch for obvious reasons.
I guess they've just found out how relentless it is at the end of a Premier League season when Manchester City are putting that sort of pressure on. 11 straight wins in a row, and it did feel as though an inconsistency came into the play of a lot of those younger players over the past 5-6 weeks, particularly that three behind Jesus of Saka, Odegaard and Martinelli, who, when you look at their statistics for the season, the amount of goals they've scored and the impact they've had, the three of them in particular just haven't been able to get to that top level often enough over the last while. Is that something they'll learn quite quickly from this year, or is that just actually you need to be able to do what Manchester City did today, where they were able to rest Grealish, De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva and bring in Foden, Mahrez and Alvarez?
I think that's a fair argument in terms of Guardiola's rotation at this stage of the season, when you want your players in peak condition for a title run in the Champions, tail end of the Champions League. And that's where kind of that squad rotation can help during the course of the season. You're saving your players, particularly your kind of key players, and maybe keeping them fresh for the business end of the season.
But nobody else can do that. Is the problem?
Well, this
is what Manchester City have done.
Absolutely.
We could sit here and argue actually who's better, Foden or Grealish, who's better, Bernardo Silva or Mahrez.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. In terms of the quality of depth that they have in those positions. So that's what I'm saying. Arsenal are going to have to increase that quality and depth. You could argue maybe as well, is it as simple as that? Maybe just a bit of tiredness creeping in, maybe a little bit kind of the pressure of the situation. Now, we've heaped praise on the likes of Saka and Martinelli. Of course, we have, and rightly so. I'm huge fans of them all, but still very young players. First time really they've ever been in this situation at the business end of the season, competing for a title. That's not easy. I've never been in that situation myself, so I couldn't really tell. But huge expectation, huge pressure on the shoulders of those players. So I'm sure they'll be better for the experience if it ever repeats itself again. That's what they have to hope for, that they can go again and put themselves in that position. But it's not going to be easy. Manchester City are setting a pretty high bar, like I said. But you can't cry about it. You have to accept it. That's where they are. That's the level that they're playing at. That's where we need to get.
And the criticism of Arsenal will be quite harsh, because when you go close and you don't quite get there, from certain quarters, I just want to ask you that. Do you think any part of what's happened over the past 6 weeks is a mental thing, is a mentality thing for Arsenal?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a difficult that from the outside looking in. You talk about there has been a drop off in terms of performance, so we're indicating maybe physical conditions that come into it. Too many demands on the players, not being able to rotate, so maybe a bit of exhaustion, almost mental exhaustion, tiredness coming into the play. Is a bit more deeper root than that in terms of the psychology, kind of pressurised environment that they've had to play. The growing realisation as the season went on, well, this is attainable now. We can actually go and win it. So we need to go and do it now. The kind of pressure on the shoulders of the players. And that's a difficult one to analyse from the outside. Mikel Arteta is the best one to judge that. He works with the players every day. he'll have seen the players now in a really kind of pressurised environment. He'll know the ones who he can count on. He might be looking at Thomas Partey now in centre midfield, first half of the season, thinking, I can hang my hat on this player. Second half of the season, I'm not so sure. The big games have come along and he's been well short. Can I trust him? Can I trust him going forward over the course of the season? So, yeah, he'll be kind of asking himself all those questions. Well, we may be saying that to the players, but he'll be talking to his background staff. And these are the big decisions which he'll have to come to address in the summer. But no, in terms of like criticism, a huge amount of criticism, I think that'll be tempered, Nathan. I'll be surprised. You look where they are at the start of the season, where they are now this season that they have, and you have to look at it in context of the whole season. Can't look at it too narrow with your focus in terms of the last kind of 6 weeks. I think it's been an outstanding season overall for this Arsenal Football Club. They've come on absolute leaps and bounds, but they have to build on it. They can't lose the players that they have. The likes of Saka, Martinez, they'll continue to be linked with all the big clubs. Odegaard as well, maybe even Saliba. Got to keep this squad together. Got to reward the players in terms of kind of contracts, but also have to show to the players already, the likes of Saka, that if you stay at this football club, you're capable of competing for Premiership titles, for the big trophies, Champions League at this football club. And to do that, you have to go and get some more players in, and some significant players. So those players will look at the players coming through the doors and think, well, this club's serious. They're serious about their title ambitions next year, and they're serious about growing the club and actually getting better, and I want to be part of that.
What about Brighton? Shows how far they've come. That it didn't feel like they played particularly well today, yet they've just gone to Arsenal and won 3-0.
I know. It was like a 6 out of 10, 5.5, 6 out of 10 performance. First half, better second half. Don't get me wrong, but it is amazing how far they've raised the bar. Where you're looking at probably a bit of an indifferent performance from them today. And yes, they're walking out of Emirates to the back of a 3-0 victory. Yeah, phenomenal job, absolutely phenomenal job. You have to remember when he came into the football club, Brighton, I think were fourth when Porter left the football club. Now they're sitting sixth at the moment. And people are saying, "Oh, he's taking this team to a new height." So maybe let's
just get the headline right. You're saying what he's really done is brought this team into a steep decline.
No, I don't. But I don't quite buy into the fact that he's taken this team into a massive new dimension in terms of Porter. If you look at Porter's results, the second half of last season, start to this season, Brighton for me absolutely phenomenal, so he's taken that on board. And a lot of people, I'm sure, were whispering to Zerbi's ear, I'm not sure you want to take this job. This team is, I don't quite agree with the principle, but I understand it when people say this team is overachieving. What are you doing taking this team fourth in the table? It's only one way they can go, and it's down. But he didn't. He backed himself. I think he had a look at it and thought, there's some outstanding talent here. I can work with this maybe even better and improve it. So I give him huge credit for that. And yeah, the brand of football that they're playing is phenomenal. And individual players are improving. I'm always impressed with a manager who comes in, not so much the players he comes in, but the squad that he has to work with, Nathan, the individual players, like he elevates them, they get better. Mentioned about Dunk there at centre-half, how much more complete player he's looking at centre-half under kind of De Zerbi's tutelage. Obviously, Evan Ferguson is growing and getting even better. But you get a bit of a sense of that all around the squad. Players are improving. Their game intelligence in terms of what he's asking them to do. This is really interesting. I think that can be good as a player when a new manager comes in. The system's a little bit different. What he's asking you to do. Players, that really kind of grabs the attention of players. Oh, this is really interesting. And I think fundamentally as a player, if you look at a manager who comes in and very quickly you think, he's going to make me better. The things he's talking about here, what he's asking me, the demands that he's putting on me and other players, this is actually going to make me better as a player. I think you kind of really buy into that. You can very easily row in behind that. So you get a sense of that. The players are like, they're all on it. Yeah, we're enjoying this. Yeah, we're getting better. We're improving. So yeah, they're in a really good place. I mean, the biggest question is, can they keep their manager? There's some of the big managerial positions available at the moment. I think they're probably all right. They probably got the manager locked down in terms of contract. I don't think there's a get out for him in the summer. But certainly if he repeats next season what he's done in the short period of time that he's been at Brighton, the bigger clubs will certainly be circling.
Even the tactical changes he made during the game, like bringing on Danny Welbeck for Billy Gilmore, is not a tactical change you would normally look at and go, this is going to transform the flow. But suddenly they looked a lot more dominant in midfield when McAllister was playing that little bit deeper, and he probably had one of his poor games this afternoon. It's hard to find any weaknesses in what De Zerbi's doing. Like, he's not afraid to take chances. He, again played Casado at right back today. It felt like it was a big loss in midfield, but he obviously felt that actually it was worth it.
But I thought that was smart. Yeah, I thought that was smart because of the qualities which Martinelli has. We spoke about Gross, lovely technical footballer, but 1v1 situations against pace, against natural winger was always going to be a struggle. So we recognised, I might say that was pretty obvious, but even still, some people would have been looking at that. Casiedo, probably their best midfielder, playing him at right back. Well, I'm not sure about that. He's upset the balance of the team maybe there. Now, obviously, Martinelli was only on the pitch for 15 minutes, thanks to Casiedo. A lumpy tackle from behind, but he kept him there. Yeah, he kept him there for the majority of the game. I thought he played well in an orthodox position for him, showed his qualities there. So give him credit for that to Zerbi. And you're right, that changed second half. Look, maybe it had to be made. It wasn't happening for them. Spoke about that partnership of Gross and Billy Gilmore in midfield. Looked a bit of a soft centre out of possession, not two of the best defenders in that area of the pitch. But dropping McAllister in there, and I think getting well back higher up the pitch, almost in a central striking position alongside Evan Ferguson. Now look, they don't play in the traditional way, high up the pitch, up against the two centre halves. They drop off into the pockets and they kind of rotate. But I think having that extra body high up the pitch, I think it helped Brighton. They got the ball in there, the ball stuck, and then people were able to go join in and found a little bit more fluency to their game after that, and kind of grew in confidence as the second half went on.
Evan Ferguson made a big impression in the game, mainly because he stood on the Arsenal defender's ankle. His overall game, what was your assessment today? Didn't have too many opportunities in front of goal.
No, we didn't. And I suppose if you critique him today, you might say, and it wouldn't be a criticism, maybe a 6.5 an out of 10 performance. Not that he did anything particularly wrong, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed his performance today because it wasn't easy for him today. He wasn't getting the type of ball ideally that he would have wanted. Like balls into feet with the right pace. There was balls coming into him getting like exercise missiles today. He was coming off the front. Gabriel was tied to him. The balls were like bouncing bobs into him. Wasn't easy to deal with. The Arsenal defenders were getting in contact with him, having a bit of a wrestle up. He wasn't getting enough touches on the ball, but he didn't get frustrated. Kept himself in the game. Just thought physically looked really strong. His movement was good. He looked quite dynamic in his movement in behind as well, Nathan. So, yeah, it was a type of performance where I think as a neutral, you didn't know Evan Ferguson. You looked at the game and thought, yeah, he done okay. That Brighton, centre forward, it was all right. But I enjoyed the performance. I didn't see a lad get his head down, get too dispirited, get too frustrated with what was going on around him. I just thought he looked well. He looked to be playing with kind of confidence and enjoying himself. So yeah, he's in a really good place at the moment. Yeah, I hope the end of the season finishes well for him, and obviously he's in peak condition when he comes into the Ireland squad for those crucial games in the summer. We'll need him.
Well, ever since John O'Shea was on with us last week and said he thinks that Evan Ferguson will challenge Robbie Keane's goal scoring record for Ireland, I'm refusing to accept anything less than a 9 out of 10.
Many goals is that? Many did Robbie get?
67.
Jesus Christ. Oh,
no pressure.
No, that's huge pressure. Yeah, why not? Well, we know the qualities that he has. Yeah, man, I can understand it. I can understand it because of what we've seen so far over the course of his career. If he stays injury free, hopefully so. Wow, that'd be great. Because if he comes close to that record, what will that mean? That'll mean qualification, you'd imagine, for a number of major championships along the way, and that's all that we want. But first and foremost, it's that Greece game. I'd take a couple of that game over in Athens in June. I know that'd be a good start.
Great stuff, Kenny.
Cheers, Nathan.